ICT sector, as you might have known, contributes just about 7% to Kenya's GDP, which could be better. And the industry has continued to grow rapidly as the country moves to implementation of the Vision 2030. And this despite a myriad of challenges such as low smartphone penetration, internet charges, as well as cyber insecurity. Well, joining us to shed more light on this and how to improve this whole ICT landscape, especially in respect to tech talent, is Amadou Daffe, who's the Chief Executive Officer at Gebeya. Amadou, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
There's obviously a lot of good things that have been talked about tech, and somebody has said tech could be the key to unlocking Africa's growth and whatnot and digitization. But do we have the right kind of tech minds running this industry in the continent?
Yes and no. What's daunting today is that for any industry, strong industry, you have to have a strong human capital.
Right.
From an intellectual perspective and from a labor perspective. What we do have so far in Africa, in the tech scene, is the labor. We have a lot of young people who graduate, computer science degrees, capable. But the next step is experience. How much experience and how fast can they get experience in order to be able to contribute into the economy? So in a sense, we have it, but we haven't really leapfrogged it, in a sense, like we did with cell phones, right? Remember, we never really dwell too much onto landlines. We leapfrog very quickly on wireless. So we need to figure out a way to leapfrog the talent to be able to capable.
Because somebody said we can't leapfrog everything in Africa. We've been leapfrogging. But let's talk about how do you build this core competence in terms of driving tech. Because like you said, there's a lot of innovation that is happening here. But if you get top corporate blue chip companies in Kenya, when they need tech solutions, they're still going for solutions that have been sourced overseas, whilst we have lots of people who are trying out. How is that?
Well, I see it from a different perspective. I think it's the chicken or the egg thing, right? For me, I think that as a continent, Kenya as a nation needs to focus first on developing the human capital, right? You can think about it in any kind of ways or so, but if you don't have a strong pool of thousands of engineers who know how to actually build solutions that's relevant first to Africa, right? Then you can move forward. That's what India did. India made sure that they trained the past 40, 50 years, thousands of engineers. And then who's ahead of these Google company, the Microsoft, right? They pay the price. We haven't figured out a way to pay the price and focus in Africa first. Then the rest will come. That's what I pretty much believe in.
Gebeya was born from a bunch of coders. I hope you're a coder. I don't get what they do, but give us a sense of exactly how you're doing to improve this critical mass of IT or tech thinkers.
Yeah. So the past almost 5 years, we've been looking around the continent and see what kind of talents is available, right? One of the things we've seen is, even though the developers know how to code, there's a sense of lack of professionalism, lack of experience, not to their own fault, but because nobody gave them the opportunity to really show who they are through internship and stuff like that. So what Gebeya does is say, okay, we'll take you from where you are, like where you have your IT skills, and turn you into professional, into specialized type of training. It's called a practical project-based training, where when you're actually being trained, you actually work on real projects with clients. So by the time you graduate, you have a portfolio. You also have actually built the trust with the client that can potentially hire you, or we can eventually put you into a marketplace, hence the name Gebeya. Gebeya is actually a marketplace that match talented developers we trained with businesses who are actually looking to hire them in Africa.
You see, the thing is, Amadou, there's ICT and entrepreneurship in that space is synonymous to startups. And we don't have a lot of such that translate into real businesses. We don't have a lot of ICT interventions that translates into jobs for its people. And probably that's the challenge why we have a lot of trained people, but they simply have nowhere to practice in. Give us a sense of what is holding us back as emerging markets or sub-Saharan Africa in terms of translating our ICT innovations to job creation and employment creation ventures.
It's the structure. We can't follow the same structure that the other worlds have done, the Western world, which is a top-down corporate approach. The world is moving so fast that, take Kenya, for example. I don't know what the employment rate is, but most likely it's a bunch of young people who don't have jobs. So I'm not going to bet on the government to be able to provide these jobs. However, I can bet on different types of platforms. Take Uber, for example, which is a shared economy, where anybody who has a driver's license in a car, that's legally owned, you can potentially be a contractor, an entrepreneur. So we need to develop these models where we have these open marketplaces where these talented people, whatever your industry is, you can actually join in and be matched with somebody who can hire you for a service. I believe in more of a consultancy service for the future of employment in Africa rather than the top-down corporate approach. For example, you take Safaricom with M-Pesa. if you would rely on Safaricom every time you want to top up, every time you want to top up your put money on your M-Pesa account, it won't work. The reason why M-Pesa has scaled, because they allow agents, they allow consultants to open up their own business. I think that's, if you want to solve the problem of employment in Africa, you have to do it that way, in my opinion. However, you can look at it from an entrepreneur's perspective, which is more people who are more innovative, people who have bigger vision than just being a consultant, who can start their own company and eventually do the same thing. Employ as many consultants as possible rather than having employees with salaries.
Let's cover the role of government, because we talk about fashioning Africa on the Silicon Valley model, and we have the Silicon Savannah right here in Nairobi. And what we don't see in Africa is a lot of excitement from government in investing in this. I mean, if you look at companies that have made it big on the Silicon Savannah, Silicon Valley rather, look at Apple, for example. There was public money invested in there. How do you get government excited about this?
I have mixed feelings. The first, I think, way to do it would be for entrepreneurs to prove that they can do it themselves without government in technology. The reason why government of Kenya is so excited about Safaricom and M-Pesa, because it was technology that was proven, right? Although it was helped by the government. So for me, I think that we need to exit companies, technology companies, in the next 2, 3, 4 years, create billion-dollar companies, And then once that picks up, the government has no way but to acknowledge that this actually works. Africa is the only continent where we haven't figured out, or we don't understand that IT is a sure way. Let me make my point.
Go ahead.
Google has about $60 billion revenue last year. They have about 10,000 engineers, right, give or take. Kenya, what was the independence? When was it?
63?
63. How many people are in Kenya?
About 40 million.
40 million, right? What's the GDP of Kenya? Right? If you follow my logic, if Google was able to generate $60 billion with 10,000 engineers, here you have Kenya, who had its independence in the 60s and have over 40 million people, and you're not able to actually at least triple the revenue that Google is doing, then it's a problem. So I think that we need to prove it first as tech companies. Tech companies need to prove that we can do this. Then the government will have no choice but follow, and that's what happened with M-Pesa and Safaricom.
Let's leave it there. Thanks for making time. Amadou Daffe is the Chief Executive Officer at Gebeya.